Got it.
All right, here we are, new week, new stream. What's going on, Mike?
That's right. I'm doing well. It's been such a busy week. I can't believe it's Tuesday again.
Time's moving really quickly. It's already March. It's kind of crazy.
Nuts. But I'm happy to be back on the live stream, and we have some great guests. This time we have a pair, but they're both from the QueensLink, Paul Trust and Rick Horan. They'll be presenting about the QueensLink, also known as the Rockaway Beach Line or the Queens Rail. We'll get into all of that. We're going to do a share screen here, so there'll be a little presentation. Of course, we are live on Facebook, so we invite everyone who may be tuned in to give us your feedback, thoughts, questions, and maybe we'll read them for our guests.
So say hello, guys.
All right. I wanted to give you a chance to give you a little, your little intro speech. If you had, I don't know if you had theme music or anything like that, so hello, everyone. My name is Paul Trust. I am advocacy liaison, community liaison for QueensLink. Very happy to be here and to talk about what QueensLink's about, what our proposal's about, and what we think it can do for our borough and beyond.
My name's Rick Horan. I'm executive director of QueensLink, and we're very happy to have this opportunity to engage with the Facebook community. We're looking forward to some good discussion after the presentation, and looking forward to your ideas as to how we can make this project even better.
Excellent. Of course, I'm Mike Scala, and I'm joined once again by Jay Carter, also known as Timid, noted hip hop artist, as well as the co-chair of BLM Tokyo.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So let's start off with something light. So what do you got for us, Timid?
Well, we were talking briefly about the Star Wars thing, and I'm a big Star Wars head. I've seen all of the movies, and the TV shows and even the cartoons. Doesn't matter that I'm an adult. But Disney just opened up the new Star Wars themed experience hotel, the Galactic, I believe it's the Galactic Cruiser, and reviews are starting to roll in. It just launched on March 1st. And it's this all-inclusive immersive experience, a 2-day thing where all of the staff is in character, the whole hotel, the whole environment is all created to look like it's in the Star Wars universe. However, the 2-day package is $6,000. So my question, I know you're not a big Star Wars guy, Mike, but I think we've got some Star Wars people on the stream here. Would you pay $6,000 for 2 nights at a hotel? There's no spas, it's just to exist there for 2 days, basically.
I wouldn't.
Okay, I like Star Wars, but I have to look into that, I think, a little bit, Jay, to just see what exactly that entails. Do you get to hang out, with some members of the cast? I just can't imagine what you're getting for that, that would warrant that price tag.
Well, the experience is supposed to be as if you were living in the Star Wars universe, and this hotel is basically a luxury cruiser, and you went on a cruise inside that universe. So it's not like, I don't think it's like, Luke and Darth Vader and any of that, like hanging around. It's just you're a regular person in the Star Wars universe, and you go on a cruise in there. And so it's this immersive experience being in that world.
Did you see what the rooms look like? Are they intergalactic looking? Is it very immersive?
Right. So it'd be like if you were watching, like if you ever seen the movies and how the things are decorated there, the rooms are decked out like that. And they're supposed to fit 5 people, but some of the reviews from like advanced, visitors, like they gave it to like influencers and stuff, let them come in for free to experience it, to get the word out. Some of them were saying that it would still be a little tight with 3 people. So it might not even be that big you know,
If you wanted to take your family and it's tight and you got four, I don't know. I'm paying $6,000. Yeah, I guess we'll have to see. You know what? If you're a fan, you know, I mean, fans go to all lengths to experience Star Wars. So
Where is
I
this
mean,
located?
I'm all about going to Disney World and going to a ride. But man, 6,000 for 2 nights. Yeah, you have to see. I'm gonna wait to. I'm not gonna lead on this. I'm gonna wait to see what the reviews say. I want to really know what I'm getting for my money at that point.
Tim, where is this located?
This is in Florida. So, you know, Star Wars has, not Star Wars, Disney has that massive
Orlando area.
So yeah, they've added it onto their property.
Do they beam you down there?
If they could, that might be worth the price.
For 6,000, they should just fly me down. Or
I think you're confusing your science fiction lingo there, Rick. You're answering Star Wars. I'm answering a little Star Trek into the Star Wars universe.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
We don't beam.
A little beach.
Never mind.
Yeah.
You're gonna upset two very fanatic communities with that one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, this is going viral after that comment. QueensLink needs to get schooled on the future.
Right. So
See, I do like themed hotels, though. I was talking earlier about the TWA hotel at JFK. That's $1,000 staying. It's much more reasonable, but it's a nice hotel. It's a hotel / museum. You go in and you can see the history of the airline. You can go have a drink in an actual old plane. It's like a plane bar. They've got an old, what do you call that when they show the flights? A rotating type screen. I forget what you would call that, like a screen showing the departure times and the landing times. But they've to show what it would look like in the old days. The rooms have mock rotary phones in them to kind of give you that feeling of being. I enjoy it.
Wait, you said mock rotary phones? So they don't
actually rotary phones. They're regular phones, but they look like rotary phones, but you can actually press the buttons in them.
They couldn't just put real rotary phones.
You'll probably be frustrated by that. I bet you they would complain.
Yeah, I mean,
I was at a hotel the other day which had the old school rotary phones. I had to explain what that was to my daughters. They were pretty disappointed that it actually didn't work. It didn't make the didn't do that. You're not getting the experience. Like,
it used to take a long time to dial a phone number, especially if you had like the 9 or something. I had to go all the way around.
There are videos on YouTube of teenagers being presented with rotary phones and just looking at it dumbfounded, not knowing what to do. So I guess it's a good thing.
Take some practice.
Yeah. So we also, some people know that Mike and I have a history of music and whatnot, but from what I understand, Paul also is a musician.
Yes. So I've lived in New York City for most of the past 25 years, and I do have a few different groups and projects I play with. I've been playing bass guitar, and then I picked up a little ways after upright bass. I've been playing those 2 instruments, my primary instruments, for the past about 30 years. Yeah.
Wow, nice. I've always wanted to pick up an instrument. I was more writing but producing as programming drums type of thing. How about you, Rick?
No musical talent in this body.
He's all rail all the time.
That's right.
I'm a very good audience member, though.
There you go.
What's your favorite artist, Rick? I don't even know.
Favorite artist? You know who I listened to the other day? Randy Newman. I haven't heard him in a while.
God.
Remember his song "Political Science"?
No, I don't.
Look it up.
But
I don't know.
I was about to say I'm gonna have to look that one up now.
All of his songs are tongue in cheek and
Okay.
very talented guy. I think you'll
Sure.
recognize it when you hear it.
When I was younger, I took guitar lessons under Billy Joel's guitarist named Tommy Burns. So that was really interesting. I didn't play the guitar for too long. Wasn't really my thing.
Yeah, you remember any of those lessons?
I mean, we're talking probably 30 years ago now, but maybe it'll come back to me if I practice for a bit.
So did you do some producing like Jay? Did you work on beats and stuff too, Mike? Or are you mostly?
Yeah, I did some of that.
Okay.
but my main focus was emceeing. Jay as well. You know, we performed the country doing a lot of shows.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
albums.
Speaking of,
Are you guys still actively performing?
I'm actually working on something now, but I've been taking my time trying to get it together. It's been so tough because I feel like I've been slicing myself so thin, involved in so many different things. And when it comes to me, I don't really want to treat it as just a hobby. I want to treat it as something I'm really putting my all into. So that's been my challenge, but I've been trying to make the time for it.
yeah, and I just released a new single yesterday, actually, that went on Spotify and whatnot, called "We Were Never the Problem."
Go check that out. It's a good song.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's art, it's creativity. I mean, everyone has to have that outlet, no matter what you do. You know, whether it's music, painting, you know, whatnot. So it's,
You guys used your Facebook stream for some musical performances?
We've done.
yeah, we've done that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
It's hard to do live, Rick, because there's always a lag. So if you're trying to you're trying to lock into a rhythm, it's next to impossible.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
yeah,
But if you're doing
Unless
a lot
it's
of
a
shows
solo.
somewhere, you can stream it on social media.
yeah. Speaking of hotels and music, remember the Mondrian in LA?
Yes.
That was kind of
It
crazy.
felt like we were from a different time period trying to figure out those gadgets at that hotel. We couldn't
Yeah,
on the TV. At first, we didn't know it was a TV.
right.
A mirror on a pole. That was around. We thought it was just a big fancy mirror, but then we thought there's no other TV in this room. It has to be the TV. We just didn't know how to turn it on.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So yeah, and
That was at LA. The Mondrian was at New Year's 2008. We actually did a big show out there with DJ Girl 6.
yeah,
But it was, I guess, the biggest New Year's show in Los Angeles, or one of them that year. I mean, you had Dr. Dre in the crowd, Axl Rose in the crowd, just watching us and the other people on stage. That was pretty crazy.
yeah. It was us.
Give us a room at the Mondrian, which is a very nice hotel in LA.
Yeah, DJ AM.
That's right.
There,
Yeah, who passed away about maybe a year and a half later, I think. But
yeah.
he was doing a show. He headlined with Travis Barker, and that was the first show that they had performed together since they were in a plane crash that they had survived.
Right.
A few months before that.
Wow.
That's why I guess it drew such a big crowd, because people wanted to see them back together.
Sure.
Yeah, and that was actually, talking about streaming, that was actually live streamed through multiple cities around the country. There was, if I remember correctly, it was something like 15 different events going on at the same time, and so it was all live streamed.
This is kind of like the early days of that type of
Right.
back then so much. But I think it was also on ESPN for a little bit. It was on a few different TV channels as well.
Right. So, and you know, live streaming. Now we're here today and doing this nice talk. So
Here we go.
let's get into you know, what we got Rick and Paul here for.
Yes, let's do it. Of course, people know I'm a big supporter of the Queens Rail, QueensLink, and I'm always going to do whatever I can to put more attention on the issue. There's a lot of talk about infrastructure lately, a lot of funding coming in. Even locally, you're hearing about different transportation projects. And my message is always, do not forget about the Queens Rail or the QueensLink. It's going to be a vital transportation project for the city and for the state. And I'm very excited to have Paul and Rick to present on it. So Paul, if you want to take over the share screen, go right ahead.
Sure. Great. Okay. Let me see if I can get that hooked up. And again, guys, thanks so much for having us. We appreciate, any spotlight we can get on what we've been trying to work on. All right, let me see if I can make it full screen. Can you guys see this?
We can.
Okay, great. Awesome. So it should be full screen now. Loading. Great. Okay, so here's a rendering we have of the QueensLink. So we are the QueensLink, and we are, put it in a nutshell, there's the old Rockaway right of way. Right of way is like the path that the train used to go along, and we're looking to see if we can reactivate it and have it go. This time, instead of Long Island Railroad, we want it to be an M train extension. So the M train goes along Queens Boulevard right now and ends in Forest Hills. We'd like to take that train and divert it down from Regal Park down south. So it'll be a north-south Queens connection going all the way down to the Rockaways. So right now, the bottom part is activated. It's what we know as the A train. So the A train, when it heads south in Queens and it goes towards the Rockaways, that's actually part of the original right of way. And above that, before it turns south, there is there's about 3.5 miles of basically overgrown, abandoned railway that's just been kind of left to rot. For the most part. And so we're looking to see if we can take this right of way and connect it to the subway network and be like a train for the people. So like what you see here is there's ball fields in around Forest Hills. And so there would have to be a little bit of tunneling that would have to happen to connect it to the line. And this is like where it would start to dip underground and go its way for a little while for a tunnel before it reemerges and is an above ground train. So I'd like to tell you a little more about it. So this is our team. It's a pretty small team. We have one member we just added that is unfortunately not in this picture. But Rick is with us today. He's our executive director. Andrew unfortunately couldn't be with us today. And we have Jonathan Lazo, who is our outreach coordinator. Andrew is our design officer. And then we also have Miriam Bensman, who's been helping us with advocacy and outreach as well as part of that team, which I'm a part of as well. Okay, so we're Concept. So this is not one of those situations where we're coming in and trying to say, this is QueensLink, this is how it's going to happen, take it or leave it. We're trying to take it from the opposite approach and build it up from the bottom up. And so what that means is we're reaching out to communities, we're doing podcasts, we're doing live streams like we are thankfully right now to be with you guys, and trying to hear from the people so we can craft this thing together, because we see this as the people's train. One of the things that also makes our proposal different, there's been many attempts to reactivate this line. What we're trying to do is, besides trying to make it a subway, is we're also looking at it as being a hybrid project that is going to incorporate up to 33 acres of park and trail space alongside and underneath the tracks. So our job is, we're trying to do is to find a way to see how best to use this branch, this right of way that's just decaying there. It's been abandoned for 60 years. So what you see here, if you look on your right-hand side, you'll see where the Queens Boulevard line is. You'll also see right now where the right-of-way is. It's that green line going down, and it goes down through Regal Park, Forest Hills, then it hits Forest Park, continues through Forest Park, and then it sort of parallels Woodhaven Boulevard, at this point with the Van Wyck as well. And then we'll continue down past Atlantic Avenue, past Liberty Avenue, and on to the Rockaways. It would have a stop also, where it would connect with the A train line at that point at Liberty Avenue, and continue using that path south. So it goes by the aqueduct, has a stop for the air train, and would continue on to the Rockaways. So, okay, so let me see about the plan. So we've been around since 2017, the QueensLink proposal, that is, to try to find a way. There was a meeting that Rick was a part of. There's another proposal called Queens Way, Queens Way versus QueensLink, which is our proposal. So Queens Way wanted to take the line and turn it into a linear park. It was sort of designed to be like a high line concept that would be for, like it would take the line as it is above ground and just have it be like park and trail space. So we, in the meeting that Rick was in with Donovan Richards, who's now our Queensborough president, I believe. Back then he was city councilman. He was kind of tasked it to us to see if there's a way that we could work together. And what we came up with is this hybrid model that would also create these up to 33 acres of park and trail space. So that was a concept began in 2017. 2019, MTA did their study, like a feasibility study, to see if this could be done. And the good news is, yes, it can be. We can make a subway extension down south. Now, the bad news was they put a really high price tag on it. They said it would cost up to like $8 billion, which sort of made everyone's jaw dropped, and possibly that high because they wanted to tank the project. They didn't really want to engage in it. we unfortunately don't know why they put it so high, but luckily at the time it was Rick and Andrew went into high gear and then reached out to a company called Thames, which has worked on different rail projects around the country, including in Washington, DC, and tasked them with doing a feasibility study independently of the MTA to see, like, is this realistically the cost? Is it really going to cost $8 billion to do this? And our report came out in the summer, and it turns out that the answer is no. The price tag came in less than half of that, around 3.5 billion. So while that's high, it's within the realm of reality. So since that report came out over the summer, we've just stepped into high gear, and that's around when I joined the team, trying to see, build up support to see if we can get this thing to happen and sort of revolutionize mass transit in the city as we know it. So what we've been busy is meeting with lawmakers, local communities, organizations, doing town halls, live streams to just try to build up support. And that's where we are right now. So for those who don't know, you might have heard Mike talk about it as like the Rockaway Beach Rants. That's what it really was back in the day. You can see some pictures of the train here. There's an advertisement at the bottom because it used to advertise. It would go to, you can go from like Manhattan to Rockaway Beach. I think it was something like 30, 35 minutes. It was a really quick, so it says here about half an hour. So that was incredible that you could get from some place that now is really considered far away by mass transit and do it in that short period of time. Unfortunately, there were a lot of fires, and the LIR determined it wasn't feasible to keep it operating anymore. And this is back in the 60s. So it went out of service. It was abandoned finally by 1962. But what had happened is they sold it to the city. And the idea was that hopefully the city at some point would turn it into part of the subway network. And so what we're trying to do here is not a new idea. We're just happen to be what we hope is the one to put it over the finish line and make this happen. So there is that right of way there. There's no road crossings. It's still in existence. What's cool about this is that it wouldn't require eminent domain. You not have to like take over people's property to build this thing because it's just sitting there as it is. So here's like what it looks like. Here's, if you look at the top picture, that's in Forest Park. So beautiful Forest Park. We love it. It's a great a place for people to find tranquility and relaxation in central Queens. And you can see here that there's part of it where it used to run through, and you can see like there's literally trees growing out of the tracks. And here down below is where it is an example of Yellowstone Boulevard, where the line itself would cross like a roadway. Unfortunately, since it's abandoned, it has a problem of dumping. There's a lot of people who just use it to throw their trash. It's become quite an eyesore. It's attracted some vagrants. People have complained about crime and are concerned about safety because it's not really attended to at this point in time. So here's again is Forest Park. You can see the right of way at the top there. It's this like kind of green line going down. That corner there is where a bunch of those buildings are, and then it continues through Forest Park. And there's some old equipment at the bottom. You can see that's just like, again, abandoned. But it's all city land. This is owned by the city. So that's what we're trying to take advantage of. And down here is another part where it is by Woodhaven, Richmond Hill, which is where I live. And so I pass this all the time. And it's so funny to me. I talked to Woodhaven and Richmond Hill. This is like right on the border where it passes of Woodhaven and Richmond Hill. Talk to these people and they don't even know it exists. They pass under it every day. They're like, oh yeah, I don't know. You know, it's I spoke to my neighbor. She has grown up in this entire neighborhood. And I said, the Rockaway line is about, 13 blocks west of where we live. And she's like, don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, so we just kind of have to do some education as we go along, to enlighten people about our proposal. Okay, you go down here to the bottom is Ozone Park. And then there's a lot of these like storage units. Some are like auto body shops, auto related like garages, so to speak. And this is the old viaduct running that's part of the right of way. And there's a lot of things that can happen with this section too, as we look to try to reactivate. All right, so why are we doing this? What's the point of this? This thing has been abandoned since the 60s. Well, Southern Queens and Central Queens are transit desert. has poor service. It's hard to get into the city. It's hard to get around. Buses are unreliable. I know I've gone to my app. I live, I often try to have to get to the north part of Queens or by Queens Boulevard to hit the E and the F. I'll look at my map at the local bus and I'll say over an hour until the next bus comes, especially on the weekends. Unacceptable. No, we're looking for much more reliable service. The riders in Southern Queens have the longest commutes in the nation. We're not even just talking like the city, the longest commutes in the nation. And what that's led to is Southern Queens largely becoming a car culture, Central Queens too. So, part of what we're trying to do, especially we're hearing reports of gas prices going up $5, over $5 a gallon, insanity. We hear reports all the time of Woodhaven Boulevard, Van Wyck, people stopped in traffic. They can't get to where they're going. So they're burning, they're just idling, and that's causing neighbors to have to, it affects their air quality. So we're trying to help a whole vast group of people, whether you have a car, whether you don't, we're just trying to make things run smoother besides just being better for the environment. We also think that activating this could be a great source of jobs. Southern Queens is a bit cut off. It's like, I think of it like the Staten Island of Queens, right? Because if you're trying to get from Staten Island to the city, you got to go through Brooklyn, right? Well, if you're trying to get to the city from Southern Queens, you got to go through Brooklyn too, right? It's kind of like we're cut off. And so this is a way of just creating greater connectivity from Southern, Central, and Western Queens to Midtown through the M train. So we're looking at is better quality of life because we're going to speed up people's commutes. It's not going to be that 30 minutes that they used to do with the LIR, because we're looking for it to be a subway. We don't want you to have to spend more money having to do Long Island Railroad and to get a Metro card. So we're trying to keep it all one unit to keep it all together. So give you back time with your family, better access to education. We're hoping to put a stopover by Metropolitan High School, to jobs. Resorts World's currently looking to expand their license, which would be a great thing for Southern Queens for the economy. And, but how are people going to get there? Well, we have QueensLink, and all of a sudden people in Midtown, in Western Queens and Central Queens have easy access to what hopefully will make Southern Queens be the world-class destination it's meant to be. So yeah, more foot traffic for local businesses. I think immediately of Little Guyana. Being foodies is a real big thing. I was originally from Jackson Heights before moving to Southern Queens, and we're always going to Momo crawls, food trucks, always looking for different types of cuisine. So the Little Guyana is right there with amazing, highly rated, cuisines. Foodies write about it all the time, but how do you get there? Well, that's where the QueensLink comes in. So again, looking to have less levels of pollution by making the roads go quicker. People, we're advocating for alternate transportation, such as using your bikes for running, as well as taking mass transit. So all that's going to help take cars off the road and make things move smoother, better, and faster for everybody. So how much are we looking to save? So if you're going to Midtown, it's gonna basically give you back about 30 minutes per ride. So adding it up over the course of a year, we're talking 125 hours or 5 full days. And even if it's like 15 minutes that you're saving each way, I happen to work in Park Slope and I live in Queens, so that 15 minutes a lot. That's like the time for me to be able to have a nice breakfast and sit down is my 15 minutes. So it's a way of just improving your quality of life, and that's a half-hour a day, and so that adds up. And I also was looking at the map. We're also proposing with our proposal to have an express stop put at Woodhaven Boulevard, by where the mall is. And if that becomes part of our proposal, as we're hoping, then to get into Manhattan from the tip of the Rockaways, I think I calculated it to be about 17 stops versus what it would take now if you were to go from the Rockaways and then shoot up to Midtown from taking the A train. And even though the A runs express at certain points, that still would be 27 stops. This is going to save you 10 stops to get into Midtown. And again, that adds up over time. All right, so what are we linking here? We're linking places. So Western Queens, we're linking hospitals too. So people who work in hospitals and need access to hospitals. We have a hospital in Forest Hills. We have a hospital at Elmhurst. Now you have greater access to hospitals. Southern Queens doesn't really have that many hospitals. So we're linking transit, as I mentioned. We're connecting with that A train. If you look at the bottom of Rockaway Park here, there's Far Rockaway, there's Rockaway Park. This is where the flexibility of the proposal, it comes into play. We don't know where it's going to end up. It's kind of why we're reaching out to people to hear, do you want it to go to Far Rockaway? Do you want to go to Rockaway Park to connect with the ferry? There's options that can happen. Of course, if you look at the linking the boroughs, the M train right now goes into Midtown Manhattan. And so, we're talking about connecting Southern, Central, Western Queens, and beyond to Midtown. So how will this work? Well, we're going to need to do a short tunnel. That's going to have to, in order to connect. Now, the cool thing that Rick told me about is the people who created the Queens Boulevard line actually thought about this and created something called a bell mouth. And the bell mouth is like this short portal, this portal meets tunnel situation, just in case they ever wanted to connect the Rockaway branch with the Queens Boulevard branch. So they, in order to like save like what would be money and time, if this ever was to happen, they just said, we're just going to put it there to begin with. So this thing is sitting there with this portal ready to be connected, and has been sitting there for decades. And we're hoping to make that happen. But in order to make that happen, you have to dig a tunnel down for, I think it was about 3,000 feet of length of tunnel where the line would have to go underground. So let's see what else got. Okay, this is my favorite visual because people are always familiar with the subway. So I like this visual because it's the most reminiscent of the subway map. So what you see here is this dotted line, this dotted orange line. That would be the Queensway path. And as I said, you see it bears west as it gets to the bottom, but it can also bear east. It doesn't have to end at the Park Beach. It can continue the other way too. So here you can see that it's going to run along the Metropolitan, the Queens Boulevard line. It's going to run south at Rego Park at 63rd Drive. It's going to shoot south. And then here's the proposed stop. So we have Jamaica Avenue, which is a couple blocks south of Forest Park. So people who like to go the outdoors, haven't really explored Forest Park. It's a beautiful park. I welcome you to come. It's very close to where I live. This is going to be an easy way for you to get there. We're going to try to put a stop on Atlantic Avenue. We also have proposed reactivating that station that's kind of sitting there too. That's the LIRR Atlantic branch that it would connect with. Continue on south, we got Liberty Avenue, Little Guyana, otherwise known as. Continue on south, you got the Aqueduct racetrack, and you got Resorts World right there. So, this is a way for people who live in Western Central Queens that don't normally visit these places. Now they can have easy access and explore and go, go check out the horses. That's such a big part of Southern Queens culture. Then we'll continue on. You got an easy way to get to JFK. There's an airport. The rail is right there that goes to the air train that goes to JFK. Continue on down the Broad Channel, and finally to the Rockaways. So what this would mean is that for people who live in Central and Western Queens, you have one train access now to the beach. Instead of having to, right now you got the Q53 that goes from Jackson Heights down to the Rockaways. And I know for a fact, the last time I tried to take my daughters, it was a 40-minute wait for the next bus. I ended up getting them lunch. Luckily, we finished and got back in time. So, we're looking for more reliable means of transit than like looking at the schedule and say, oh, I got like 40 minutes. What do? I got 3 girls with me that want to go to the beach. So, we're, with it being a subway, we're looking more for that like 7 to 12-minute ride every 7 to 12 minutes, hopefully having that train come by. Okay, so here's where I showed you, you got these ball fields here in Forest Hills, and the train, this is how it could look, as you can see alongside and underneath the path. Well, in this case, it's an embankment, so it's just alongside. You can see that there would be park and trail space created. So we're looking to create new places for people to explore. Here's another option where you can see it go underneath as well. And there's certain spots that this is a viable option. It's a more expensive option, but we can make these beautiful parks that aren't only alongside it, but can also exist underneath. Here's a rendering of what the tunnel could look like. And a wide embankment. So here in this case, the train is actually underground. So you're not even having to park alongside and underneath. You got the train underneath, and you got the park space above it. So again, this is just a slide that talks about, reaching out to the community. We want to hear your concerns. We want to hear your issues. We know people along the right of way are concerned. Well, there's going to be a train coming in my backyard, right? Yeah, that's true, but don't think of it as the J train, which is noisy and screeches, or the 7 train, because the way train tracks are built today are much more modern, much more quiet, and there are certain things you can do with creating barriers that can block the sound. I was recently looking at a company that does barriers for highways as well as for trains that advertises 100% sound absorption. So we can look at different ways that can make this a quiet and safe train behind your house. The land will be utilized and won't be overtaken by vagrants and people going up there to party. Yeah, so here's the picture I took. I snapped this picture on Jamaica Avenue. This is so people are dumping. So there you go. You got a mattress, you got some bags there. This is an eyesore. It's taxpayer land that we can utilize. It's just sitting there and being used like this. So this is something we're looking to do in Forest Park. We hope to create nice lighting. We know that there's been some crime that's happened in Forest Park and at nighttime, and we're want to create a safe environment for the reactivation. Okay, so there you go. Here's a picture of what it's not going to be. Screechy, loud J train. No. This is not what it's going to be like. So here's an example of things that we can do. These are like the barriers I was telling you about you can see here, like this is a train that has an embankment and then the train's going through. So it's going to block the sound. This was a great example our engineer, Andrew, discovered. This is actually a library. This is in Chicago. This is an old train line. They wanted to create a library beneath it. Of course, as you know, libraries, they're very sound sensitive, but there was an architect who was hired to design this tunnel, like a tube that is 100% sound absorption. So that way people can be in the library and have their quiet and be able to study. Yet have a train directly above them. Kind of a phenomenal feat, but these are the out of the box sort of ideas we're looking for to make sure that those who are along the right of way are not, as minimally impacted by sound and vibration as possible. Okay, the environment, again, here you see at the bottom, Jamaica Bay. I wanted to put this picture in there because Jamaica Bay is gorgeous. Anytime I know anyone who goes to Jamaica Bay, it's just like, wow, what a beautiful natural environment. Well, for those who live in Southern Queens, all the exhaust, all the pollutants that go into the ground, this is where they end up. So what we're trying to do is try to help limit the amount of pollutants that work their way down to Jamaica Bay by trying to ease the congestion on the road. Not only will that make everyone's life who drives better, but also make the residents of Southern Queens have other ways of getting around. Okay, so how are we going to create the space? So we got 2 examples here of the problem is in New York City, we haven't built new rails. I mean, we have the air train, and that's also a good example of a quieter train that we can look at. But here's how the park space can happen that you can see in different cities. One on the left is Richmond, California. You can see, here's an example of park space alongside and underneath the tracks. That's something we can do in certain places. Again, remember, QueensLink is a hybrid model. And on the left, you can see here even there's fields where people can play sports too. That's another example out of Atlanta, Georgia. These are different ideas we have for what can happen. So there on the top, this is the viaducts. That's that area where those auto body shops are and garages are. You can keep it viaduct width. We can keep right now, as far as we know, the structure's sound, but of course it has to be tested. It's a sound structure for what it is. If you put a train on top of it, they're going to have to find out if what needs to be done to make sure it's safe for that. So the structure may be able to be kept, or there's an idea like an air train type situation where you can see there are columns, which is the middle. I'm looking at the middle picture here, and there's park space on the sides, and people can get underneath because the columns have spaces in between them. And then at the bottom, this is one of the concepts we are considering. Again, this is all a concept. We're not coming in and saying this is what has to happen, but we've started looking at other cities, and in Boston, Massachusetts, this is a rendering because they just actually did this. So we don't have any live pictures, but we're hoping to get there someday and get pictures of this. They took what is kind of like the viaducts in Ozone Park, and they took those garages and turned them into like a marketplace. There's like across the street, you can see here a beer garden. So this is like an example of where jobs can be created to make a new shopping area, a new shopping district. So again, we're not just talking rails, we're talking what can happen alongside and underneath the space. How can we be creative and create something new and exciting is as a possibility. Okay, so the plan is up to 33 acres of park space alongside and underneath. Whether that actually happens, is a bit up to the community. If you look on the right, you'll see there's like this kind of crescent shape over here. Right here is where the Logan Bus Company currently occupies. This whole area is like filled with like 100 buses. So, can some of that be moved to allow for the reactivation? The land is city land that's being rented on. So these are things we're going to have to talk to the community about, as well as with Logan Bus, and see what can happen. Maybe just a small amount for the reactivation, or maybe we can find out if some of these buses can maybe be moved to a nearby location, possibly like JFK has a bunch of parking lots. So that was an idea suggested from a lawmaker. But again, this is all something that would have to be worked out over time. So these are actual pictures of what the land looks like, as far as it's an abandoned. Some of it has trees, and some of it can be turned. I think Andrew took this and sort of greened it out a little more to show just how much park space it can be. Because in the northern part by Regal Park and Forest Hills, it's pretty wide, and you can create a bit of park space. Okay, so what are the benefits? Cleaner streets. Hopefully, get rid of that dumping, like those mattresses will be a thing of the past. Better access to local hospitals, support the redevelopment of Arvern and Far Rockaway, which is an ongoing redevelopment. Foodies access to Little Guyana, more foot traffic, more businesses along Jamaica Avenue. Please help Jamaica Avenue, especially on the Richmond Hill side. It's kind of hurting right now, and it could use more foot traffic, more businesses getting more people coming in and supporting them. So also support the growth of Jamaica Center, which is a commercial district we're seeing come up. It's starting to look a bit to me like downtown Brooklyn, or else like Long Island City. So we're gonna see that continue to grow. Aqueduct, Resorts World. Some politicians, like the head of our city council, she's advocating for it to get a Title III gaming license, which would put people behind those tables, like you sort of see at Foxwoods or Atlantic City. So that's something that could really create a lot of jobs, and we can help get people to and from it. And also the Rockaways, of course. For me, I love taking my kids to the Rockaways. It's not always easy to do, and I would love a better way for me to get there. And I'm sure I speak for a lot of people in saying that. Okay, so what is QueensLink going to do? Well, we're going to provide environmental justice, helping the environment, economic justice for areas that haven't had as much foot traffic as they possibly could, like Little Guyana. We can help maybe bring some people to places like that, or Jamaica Avenue. Transit justice. We have transit deserts here in Southern Queens, and we can help with the commuting with that. Educational justice, bringing people to their schools. I know I'm also an educator. I'm a teacher, and I used to teach out at the old Andrew Jackson complex in Cambria Heights, and students would come in, I'd see them period 3. I'm like, where were you? I'm supposed to see you period 1. They'd be like, Mr. Trust, you don't understand. I have 3 buses. I'm coming from the Rockaways. So I know that story, and it's true that if you got a multiple transfers on buses, it can take you a really long time if you miss that bus. We want to create reliable transit to get people north and south in Queens, to get them. If you go to school at Jamaica High School or Hillcrest or Metropolitan, we want to help you get there. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers this slide. Oh, colleges too. Your college would be easier to get to. LaGuardia, about a 15-minute walk, but you could always transfer, I'd say, Jackson Heights to the 7 train. So it'll still make an easier transfer, easier way to get there. So let's say that this has inspired you. How could you get involved? Well, we want your feedback, and we would like to hear from you as we engage the local communities, and tell us what you liked, what you didn't like. So our website is www.queenslink.org. On that, there's a specific page of the queenslink.org/get involved that talks about different ways that you can get involved. Maybe you're inspired and want to contact your local lawmaker. We have a list of lawmakers. Say, hey, I want the QueensLink. I want to be able to get around quicker. I want, too much traffic on Woodhaven Boulevard. Can you help us? We like the QueensLink. So there's different, ways you can, we suggest to get involved. Also, we have a link to our newsletter that we put out not so often that you're going to want to delete us, but we like to keep you up to date with what we're up to. You also follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, and Instagram as well. And the one thing, this is a new slide we've added. Why? Because there's been all this talk of the Interborough Express. So people started coming to us when they heard Hochul make this announcement, like, I love the Interborough Express, I want it. And Donovan Richards jumped on board, said this is a great thing. And Jessica Ramos, State Senator Jessica Ramos, also like, this sounds amazing. And all of a sudden, things started blowing up for me, like, congratulations, you got your right of way is getting reactivated. I'm like, whoa, that's something a little different. That's called the Interborough Express. So confusing, right? So that's why we created this slide, because they are two parallel lines. If you look here, this blue one on the left is the Interborough Express. It's really long. It goes all the way from Jackson Heights down to Bay Ridge. Originally, this was called the Triborough. It was supposed to go up to the Bronx. Why'd they cut it and make it only go to Jackson Heights? That's a mystery we'd love to know the answer to as well. But right now, their proposal is to go from Jackson Heights down to Bay Ridge. There's a lot of transit deserts along that way too. And let's be clear, this is not a subway reactivation. This is a cargo line that has these heavy transit trains that carry goods back and forth. And they're looking to combine that with a commuter line. Don't think it would be a subway line, because I don't think both can exist together. We're looking at light rail, possibly buses. It's still a proposal as well. So I think a lot of it, I don't even really know where the stops are. We do know it crosses a bunch of lines, and they've sort of suggested about connecting a lot of these, but there's still a lot of details I think that have to be hashed out, but it has certainly gotten the eye of our governor. So what we're trying to do is to fight our way into that conversation as well, as Mike Scala was mentioning, make sure that QueensLink stays part of the conversation. And we're the smaller orange line to the right. It goes from Queens Boulevard up here, where the R train ends, and goes down, to the Rockaways. So it served different areas. These, there's quite a bit of difference between these two. So we're talking about different neighborhoods, different populations, different communities. Not the same thing. In our mind, we feel both are essential. Both are needed. Ours probably would be cheaper because it's a bit smaller, and the right of way is, as I said, is mostly there. That's sort of the difference between the two. Ours is an M train extension going down from Rego Park to the Rockaways. There's, what it becomes is sort of unknown. Possibly light rail is going to share along with the cargo line that goes all the way down from Bay Ridge and goes all the way up to Jackson Heights. So there was one slide I didn't see here before, and I want to mention this this is kind of our tagline. Where can the QueensLink take you? And I'm going to leave this QR code up there in case you want to take a picture, so you can go visit our website. But one of the things that I didn't see in the slide is we're also looking at the possibility of having the G train go back to Forest Hills. Right now, the G train service was cut around 2010, I believe, and it stops right now it goes from Kensington to Long Island City, and then it stops, but it used to go back to Forest Hills. Now, with the M train, now that we're taking the M train and diverting it south at Rego Park, it no longer goes to Forest Hills. So it doesn't have to stop and wait and turn around, which takes a lot of time. And it's just not a very well designed station there at Forest Hills. So by not having the M train having to go there to that station and shoot down south, we now open up capacity that would allow for another train to come in, such as the G train. So we can once again restore service with our proposal of the G coming back to Forest Hills. So running from Kensington, going through neighborhoods like Park Slope, going through from downtown Brooklyn, going from Fort Greene, from Bed-Stuy, going through Greenpoint, Long Island City, also Astoria. So people, I work in Brooklyn, so I hear the complaints all the time. Oh, my friend lives in Astoria, I can't get there. Well, now you will be able to with one train access. You'll be able to get there. Or people like to go to there's all those concerts that happen this summer, Forest Hills. Now you got one train access once again. You go see your favorite indie rock band or comedian. So, we're also looking at, besides the 50,000 ridership that the MTA estimated, that's a daily ridership. That's not even including beachgoers to the Rockaways or people wanting to go gamble at Resorts World. 50,000 sounds like a lot, but that doesn't even include how many would take advantage of the G train reactivation. So where can QueensLink take you? A lot more than just the Southern Queens. It can take you, it really is a way to revolutionize the our subway system as we know it. And I believe that is the end of my presentation.
Thanks. Thank you very much. That was actually a lot of information there.
Yeah, a lot of information.
No, it's quite thorough. I think it's it sounds like something that's really needed. And you mentioned early on that this was something that was or something similar was kind of expected to happen decades ago after the line that was previously there was given over to, I guess, the state. Why do you think it's taken so long for it to actually, something to happen, or even, for these proposals to get taken seriously?
There's been a lot of attempts over the years at reactivation. The last push we know, and Rick, you were part of that push back in 2013. Was that, I don't know if he can hear me. I know he's got things going on. So yeah, there was a push back in 2000.
I was there with Rick
Mike?
At the time.
Okay, with Rick.
Yeah, we called it the Queens Public Transit Committee. It's taken on a lot of iterations. It was the Rockaway Beach line, as you alluded to. We called it Queens Ring. Now you guys are calling it the QueensLink. But the question does remain. I mean, there have been activists or advocates for this since 1962 when it was first disconnected. So why do we think now we'll be able to get the momentum to move forward?
Well, what makes the time now? As you know, I think the State of the Union address is possibly happening right now, Biden's probably going to be talking a lot about his infrastructure bill. So there's been a lot of focus on infrastructure. There's been a lot of money that are working its way to the states, and there's politicians looking to use that money in ways that they can show their constituents that something's going on with all that money that's happening. So our job is to try to make sure that those politicians are taking QueensLink into consideration as a way to utilize that money for something that really would help residents in Southern Queens and beyond. So that's one of the primary reasons. Also, we have a lot of electives now that just so happen to be from Southern Queens. The head of City Council, Adrienne Adams, she is from Southern Queens. Donovan Rich is from Southeastern Queens. So these are not the usual like power centers, if you will. And Eric Adams is an outer borough person. So we're talking about more focus on the outer boroughs, even though the Interborough Express is the line that's been getting the most attention. We are thrilled that the politicians are talking about north-south connectivity versus everything going to Manhattan, which is how the system was originally designed. So between the funding for the infrastructure, between politicians that have a greater connectivity to the outer boroughs and understand the plight of those who live in transit deserts, possibly personally understand that plight, there's the environment has become, there was just a report released yesterday about how lawmakers have let people down, that the climate crisis is a real serious deal that unfortunately the future generations are really going to have to bear the brunt of. So we think between the need for cleaner ways to get around, greener ways to get around, with the traffic issues that we hear, not to mention gas prices, we just feel like the time is now.
Yeah,
you saw me look down a minute ago, it's because I was sharing your presentation in as many groups as possible. I want to get as many eyes on you as I can, because I think this is very important stuff. You brought up the infrastructure talk that's been happening, and that's very important. And I've been saying that. Why is there no conversation, or why isn't there more conversation about Southeast Queens, about the Rockaways, and about this particular project? So what kind of headway have you made with federal officials on this? Have you made an attempt to attach any of the federal infrastructure money to this project?
So one of our biggest supporters is Stacey Amato, and she has apparently reached out to Buttigieg, reached out to his team, because he's kind of a federal guy for infrastructure. And so hopefully that the QueensLink has worked its way to his ear. I know she's also reached out to those who are close to our Governor Hochul as well. On the federal level, we just recently added an advisor to our team, like this week, who happens to have connectivity with Chuck Schumer. So we're hoping that it can continue to, evolve on the federal level as well. Our focus has just through the, our own circles of influence has largely been at the city and at the state level. So state senators, state assembly people, as well as city councilmen and city councilwomen.
Okay, and I do agree that a multi-pronged approach is needed here. You mentioned the line is owned by the city, so of course New York City has to weigh in on this, but I think we're going to need cooperation between various levels of government, really between the city, the state, and the federal government to realistically.
That's the interesting thing is that you think of MTA, okay, that's a state organization, so of course we got to deal with state, but it's city-owned land, so that we have to talk to the city. We've reached out to, we've recently talked to Savannah Brooks Powers' team. She's chair of transit. We have a meeting set up with a Shaker Krishnan, who is now chairing parks, because we're a park and transit. So we're reaching out to city, and we spoke last week to Joe Adabo, who's at the state level, and so yeah, it's kind of this broad web. We're trying to just sort of snatch in as much interest as possible, and it's been a bit of a challenge, Jay. It's been a bit of a challenge, Mike. I have to be honest with you, because we have some of our diehard supporters. And, we recently had a conversation with a state senator who was like, you guys need a champion. This is one who doesn't happen to be in our district, but happens to be on the transit committee on the state level. And so that's what we really need is a champion, someone who has the influence, who can maybe, take our proposal and really help blow it up.
Yeah, I think, and like I said, to me, it sounds like it's almost a no-brainer to some degree. New York's transit is well known, and having spent time living in New York, and then also spent time in Tokyo, where it's kind of regarded as one of the best public transit cities, and actually one of the best public transit countries. You could literally take through transfers, take a public train, a regular train from the tip of the country to the other end of the country in Japan, without having to get on fancy, high-speed rail or whatever. You could take local trains all the way to one side of the country to the other. So it's very well connected. And even within the city itself, Tokyo, which is on the same type of scale as New York, a lot of places are very connected. So it would seem like in New York, you would want something similar, to be very connected, for everywhere to be accessible, and it would cut down on things like traffic, like you said, pollution. And one of the things I think is really important that you mentioned was the time factor. You're shaving 30 minutes off people's commute, like each way, and you're giving people back their time, they're giving back their life, you're giving them, it's very important.
Time is money.
Sorry?
Time is money too.
Time is money, and time is part of your health. It's time with family. It's time. It's your stress. It's all of that. So,
and I want to expand on that.
Exactly.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I believe New York City is the only major city in the U.S. where we do not have a direct connection from our airport, in this case JFK, to the center of our city, which would be Midtown.
Yes, yeah, we were recently.
That's outrageous, isn't it?
We were recently speaking with another group that worked through called IREM, that worked through NYU and came up with their own proposal. This is going back a few years. I think this is more like early 2000s. And their sort of, the thrust of their proposal was like, how do we not have our most major airport connected to the biggest commercial center in the world, Times Square, so that was sort of the thrust of theirs. Our proposal is more, a little bit more focused on the subway, something that we know a lot of people take and rely on. You have a lot of immigrant communities. People don't have a license. You have a lot of kids that live in these communities that have long distances to go to their schools, to their jobs, which influence their quality of life and their academic advancement. So our focus is more on Queens rather than taking people from the airport to the commercial center. We want them to explore and be part of Queens. But this certainly, we got to stop right there at the AirTrain too. So, this can help with that as well.
Right. And it addressed a lot of traffic concerns as well. I mean, remember when I was in Valley Stream, we would go into the city sometimes, and just the traffic alone sometimes would take two plus hours, depending on the time of the day. And so, you know,
Think about the pollution as well that's associated with that.
absolutely.
Now we hear reports from people who live on Woodhaven Boulevard that well, whether you're for it or against it, there, you know, there's the new express buses. There's some people who are real big fans of them. There's others who say it wasn't designed right, that it slowed down traffic immensely. You know, I can't really weigh in because I really want to see the studies a little closer. But regardless, we hear people that certain times a day on Woodhaven Boulevard, you're just parked there. And if you live along Woodhaven Boulevard, then you're just breathing in that fumes. I've talked to people who say they can't even open their windows. So, you know, regardless, having that north-south connectivity will take cars off the road. I know that they're now talking, one of the things that I think Hochul was looking at is expanding the Van Wyck. I've also read studies, if you build more road, then more people drive. And that doesn't actually speed things up. It actually increases car culture versus taking it away. You know, so that's what, you know, we're trying to do. We're trying to create north-south connectivity with mass transit, as well as advocating for people to ride bikes and get around in other ways.
Can we speak a little bit about the cost benefit analysis? Because I know you mentioned the cost, and actually it was much less than initially projected. But I had a few questions about that. Number one, it's one thing to talk about the cost, but what are the savings? How much money are we actually going to make? What's the return on our investment? Do we have any estimate as to what that might be? And number two, I know you spoke about an iteration of this project involving trails and rails, maybe a park and then a train underneath. You had, you know, various ideas along those lines. Does this figure that you're quoting now or estimating now, does that rate this iteration of the project? Because I know part of what made it so cheap is that you didn't have to start from scratch or start digging underground necessarily. The right of way was already there.
Right. So our estimation, and you know, there has to be some, you know, the fact our proposal is flexible. Also, you know, some certain things would have to, you know, change the cost depending on what the community wants. The fact it's on an embankment and that embankment is there, you can keep it on the embankment. You're going to lose the ability to have park space underneath and a bit alongside, because an embankment is like a diagonal slope. But that is also the cheapest way because the embankment's already there. Again, with the viaducts, you know, depending on how we know they're structurally sound for the businesses to exist under there. The city rents out those spaces to those businesses and garages that are being used. Is it structurally sound if you put a rail on top of that? That's a bit unknown. You know, according to our plan, we estimated. I was trying to see if I can pull it up real quick to get you the exact figures, but I believe it was 150,000 jobs would be created over like a 10-year span based on this project. So of course you have jobs created in the creation of it, looking like a lot of union jobs to be created and then maintained, but also just through the expansion of the business. Our independent study estimated that there would be about 150,000 jobs. And also the cost that we estimated at, the reason that the MTA had a cost of around 8.2 billion, I think they came in at, and we're like a little over 3 billion, is they took what's called soft costs. And that's not the cost of like the concrete used to pour for the rail. That's costs like based on inflation and things that are sort of estimates. And they basically took a worst case scenario of like all that could either go wrong or just get so super expensive, and said that was the cost of the line. But our independent study took algorithms that are accepted by the government as projected costs for a project like this, and using like accepted algorithms, the cost immediately dropped by billions. So we see QueensLink as between the jobs creation and the income that it could bring to the area as not being a cost, but as a savings, because it would bring in more than it would cost to make the line happen.
Is there any idea like how long it would take once in use to pay off the investment?
That I do not know how long it would take to pay off the investment. That's a good question. The ridership was determined. I think the number MTA said was 47,000. I believe that ridership is significantly less. They were probably going by 2010 census numbers. Queens has grown by over 200,000 people. That's roughly the equivalent of the entire population of Salt Lake City. There's a lot of the houses in Southern Queens, when they deactivated a line and said it wasn't worth it, were single family homes. But a lot of these houses now have been subdivided. You'll have people have their basements rented out. You might have two families above them living. I don't know if all these were counted in the census, and we believe that the ridership will be much higher. If Resorts World gets its Title III gaming license, they're going to be looking to expand exponentially. And as I mentioned, Adrian Adams, who's head of the city council, is advocating for that, as well as a lot of the Southern Queens politicians. We've spoken to Resorts World and about their markets, and they say they got a lot of people from Brooklyn, they got a lot of people from Southern Queens, got a lot of people Long Island, but we feel that there's a lot of people who live in Central and Western Queens and Midtown that don't go to Resorts World, don't consider it, maybe don't even know about it. They just don't have cars because car culture is much less in Western Queens. So we think that there's these markets for the Aqueduct and Resorts World that are just not being tapped into, that would create a much greater ridership than they're estimating. So unfortunately, I don't have the numbers for you for that, how long it would take to pay for itself. Of course, part of it is how long would it take to construct.
Right.
That is something that's a bit unknown. I mean, a project of this magnitude, if there are those who don't want it, you can tie it up. I mean, I'm sure Mike can tell you, if you want to tie it up in legal battles, you could probably do that for a long time. But let's say when from what I've spoken to from our engineer Andrew Lynch, he says that if this is fast tracked, it could probably, from first shovel to ribbon cutting, be done in about 5 years, but more likely probably 7.
That's pretty good.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about eminent domain. In the presentation, you said it would not require reclaiming property or taking anyone's property. Now, I know the scare tactic, I guess, used to be that it was going to interfere with the ball field in Forest Hills. Can you alleviate those concerns? Because, of course, you have Little League teams who play there.
Right. So if I could share my screen again, I think I could just pull up that sort of rendering. Let me see. Here we go. Can you see that? Let's see if I can get out of the. Okay, let me pull it back. So let me see if I could find one of the tunnel pictures. All right, yeah, here. So here's a tunnel picture. So there's those ball fields, right? Can you see this? Can you guys see that picture?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so this is a graphic rendering of what we had done to sort of demonstrate visually what this would look like. So here you can see that there's a tunnel. So this is going from this is looking actually north. So you have the right of way, and by the baseball fields, there would have to be a tunnel put there, and that's so it would go under and not interfere with those baseball fields. And I believe Rick mentioned that by creating this extra space, it would actually increase the width of that park. And so not only would you be able to keep those ball fields, you'd actually have more usable area instead of this, abandoned right of way that's taking up space by having it, turned into park space and having a tunnel right there. So yeah, that is true. As far as eminent domain, we believe that it's all city-owned land. Now, some of that land in Forest Park has been converted into park space. I think Andrew recently looked at the numbers and estimated it was a little less than 5 acres. So that is the part of Forest Park where the trees are growing out of the tracks. And that would have to be converted, or at least a part of that where the right of way is, where the train would literally have to go, that at least would have to be converted back into to park space. But as far as taking people's land, it's all city-owned land. There are properties that do go right up against it, and that's part of the the residents that we want to speak to talk about different ways that it can be abated. One of the next steps we need is something called an EIS, an environmental impact study, that would also look, often those look into sound mitigation techniques. What are the issues and what can be done to solve them and how much they cost? That's why I say the cost can't be fully estimated, because we have to see what issues are out there and what can be done to alleviate those concerns.
I was going to say, it sounds like, I mean, you mentioned about, the ridership and people being able to commute back and forth, and that's great. I think it sounds like it would also have other benefits as well to, you mentioned like tourists going to the beach in the Rockaways, which would trickle out to the rest of the community at large, to businesses around there, businesses along the way. Those communities would see an influx of, consumers, and it sounds like it could be a positive thing there as well.
Yeah, I think it could be great for businesses that don't normally have this foot traffic. We have seen a lot of interest in the Rockaways. I believe it's the longest city-owned beach, and the only one that allows for surfing. So there's a lot of people, I've been on that 53 bus, and dare if you wait till 6 o'clock when the beach is closed and try to ride that 53 back, you're gonna be waiting a long time. So we wanna help that out. And Jay, you also bring up an interesting thing, because people start hearing businesses coming in, more money influx, they start worrying about gentrification. So
Right.
that is definitely a concern that we are vested in. What I do know, because where I live in Richmond Hill, if I look to the end of the J line, we have Sutphin Boulevard, Jamaica. And if I look down to what I pass through every day on the way to work, we have in East New York, Broadway Junction. Those have great transportations. And one can maybe see the start of gentrification in the Broadway Junction area, but mass transit doesn't cause gentrification. It may be a factor in it. Jackson Heights, where I used to live, has great transit, but only in the past 15, 20 years have we seen, issues related to gentrification. I speak to old timers, they're like, oh, you should have seen Jackson Heights in the 90s. So the transit's always been there. So there must be more to gentrification than improving transit, because we also know transit is a way to uplift the community. One way to uplift the community is providing better ways for them to get to work, to schools, to hospitals. But will this lead to what we've seen happen with, say, Ridgewood? Ridgewood is now, has new populations there. It's flipped a bit politically because of that. It's less conservative. People have worked their way from, Williamsburg to Bushwick, and now in Ridgewood. So they're that they may be following the train line on that too. They might be following the M train. So I'm very interested in finding out the different causes. I think this is something that lawmakers need to be aware of when it comes to development of an area, and developers, because I think that has a lot to do with what causes gentrification of an area.
Well, on that topic, we've advocated for initiatives like another hospital in the Rockaways. And some of the pushback that we got was that the infrastructure that's currently in place wouldn't support that. This is what we're being told, that how could people get to work? It's too remote. It's too disconnected from the rest of the city. So a project like this would really be a boost to the local economy in more ways than one. It could really be the spur for more of the projects that we've been asking for all along.
Wow, that's interesting. I did not know that, Mike. That's a good note.
Like more healthcare.
Yeah, and I think your point about gentrification is a very important one, and like I said, it could be various factors involved in it. If you're looking at the Rockaways, you're talking about beachfront locations, like beach community, and which is very highly prized types of land. And if you improve transportation back and forth, you're going to attract, there'll be more business, be more money there, there'll be more, overall things. And that is a very real, I think it'd be a very real concern about being gentrification, because people coming from the city would be like, oh, well, we can get some beachfront space with some good transportation nearer to Manhattan. And so that could be, is there anything in the plan that kind of addresses that, or definitely looks into that, or tries to find ways to mitigate that possibility?
Right, or attaches any kind of maybe local hiring, or somehow gives the benefits to the people who live there now, so they don't end up getting priced out.
That's a very good question, and this is, I think, another reason why we especially want our. We know that we've spoken to some lawmakers in the that whose constituents are in the far Rockaways and other communities like Little Guyana, and they've seen support for a reactivation amongst their population. We know that some lawmakers have brought up concerns about gentrification, and I think that's where taking a bottom-up approach versus a top-down of, like, you didn't bring up the issue, Jay. I brought it up. I wanted to make sure that it becomes part of the conversation, because it's a legitimate concern. It's you in my mind. You want to have the culture of these communities we're tapping into remain the culture of these communities. You want to have them remain affordable. And this is where I think it's important to look at development and to see how that's occurring. Are you developing, luxury high rises with, beach rooftop barbecues? Or are you building something that has a significant amount of affordable housing to help, So yeah, because with more greater transit, you're talking about areas that are probably going to be right for development. And that's where I think the laws and lawmakers have to sort of step in and ensure that what happens keeps the culture of the community, becomes a boon to the community, not trying to, get those from outside. We've seen it happen in Jackson Heights, where I lived on 82nd Street. It went from mom and pop businesses to now it's like an outdoor mall. We got Banana Republic, we got a Gap. All those mom and pops are gone. Target, a lot of those are gone. Jamaica, I hear concerns a lot about what is happening with these new luxury buildings coming into play. So, these are all legitimate concerns.
I think even, and it's great that you brought it up, and I think what people should also keep in mind too, like that question, like I said, is a very important one. It's something that needs to be considered, and you will need the politicians and the lawmakers to take an active role in preventing, some of these things from happening. But I don't think that is an argument against doing the QueensLink, to think, okay, we shouldn't do this because of gentrification, because not doing it sounds like it could also be a detriment to the people who are currently living there, who need that transportation to make their lives easier as well. So
right, I was going to make that same point, that we talk about the concern that people wouldn't be able to afford living there. Well, people can't afford it now with the high cost of transportation. Try getting on the Long Island Railroad every day to Manhattan. I mean, it's time and it's money. So you improve transportation, it improves the lives of the people who are there already, as long as it can remain affordable for them.
Exactly. So yeah, I think
So
no, go ahead.
No. These are exact, like you said, there are concerns that are going to come along the way. And these are ways, they need to be addressed sooner than later so that they can be effectively dealt with, because I think the benefits of a proposal like this far outweigh the negatives. But with that being said, you need to address the negatives so that this can be a rail line for everyone, to help everyone. Whether you drive, you want to see less traffic on your road. So you're not, we've spoken to people who have businesses that rely on the Van Wyck and rely on Woodhaven Boulevard. Now they have employees that they're paying extra per hour because they have to hire them to sit there while they're also spending money on gas. So yeah, that's a lot of money right there that can help by alleviating some of the congestion on the roads.
Very good. Well, thank you, Paul, for your time. I know we went a little bit over, but this is all very important stuff.
Sure.
I want to ask, as a matter of trivia, have you ever heard of the case called Paul's Graph versus Long Island Railroad? Maybe not.
No.
But it is a landmark case that all law students are taught in the first year of law school. And it stands for the concept called proximate cause or legal cause. So when you're suing someone for negligence, I won't go too deep into it, but basically you have to prove not only that the person who acted negligently was the actual cause of the injury, but that it was reasonably foreseeable that what they did would cause that injury. And that concept comes from a case called Paul's Graph v. Long Island Railroad, 1928. But the facts of that case concerned a woman named Miss Paul's Graph, who was taken the Long Island Railroad to Rockaway Beach. So it's a Rockaway Beach line case, and it's a landmark case in the legal profession that all lawyers and first-year law students are taught. So very much,
wow.
Rockaway Beach line is a part of history.
Very cool. Well, thank you for enlightening me on that, Mike. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, and we hope, of course, that it is reactivated soon. We need to keep the momentum going. So before we wrap up, if people want to get involved, where should they go? Drop the website again. Let us know.
All right, so you can go to www.queenslink.org, and that has a lot of wonderful information. It has a lot of the renderings you've seen here. And there's a little one of those like little sandwiches in the corner. You can look at the executive summary of our study, independent study, that shows that how the city needs to build this, and what it would do for the economy and the environment. It's sort of a no-brainer. There's also a place at on that little sandwich that you click on the upper right that says "Get Involved." That you can click on to find out more and to join our newsletter. And we hope you'll take advantage of that, because this line is a part of Queens history. And Queens deserves better mass transit, and the city deserves better mass transit, and we think we can help make that happen.
Absolutely, sounds really good.
Thank you so much, Paul and Rick and everyone joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. Thank you, Mike. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Maybe next time we can get you on here with your bass guitar.
There you go. Yeah, let's work on a song together. I'll drop something, and you guys can do your magic on top of it.
Sounds good to me.
Bye, folks.
Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.
Sorry I couldn't participate more.
That's all right. I think
Have a good
Paul
night.
did a great
Your
job.
presence. Thank you, everyone.
Great
Thanks.
job, Paul.
Take care.